for 6, and we're doing pretty well on the attendance, and hopefully Carl will be joining us here momentarily. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. It's nice to be here in this lovely, lovely new school. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't go around the table and do introductions one more time, because we have a couple of newer members and just want them to get real comfortable with the members of the committee and the Beaverton School District staff and board member. So, Maureen, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. I'm Maureen Wheeler, Communications Officer for the Beaverton School District.
Paul Ozenthal, the Executive Administrator for Facilities.
Sherry Stanley, the Administrator for Facilities Development.
Aaron Boyle, I'm the Construction Operations Supervisor.
John Owen, Construction Programs Manager.
Ellen Jacobson, Chief Financial Officer.
Ray Hoover, Bond Accountability Committee member.
I'm Dick Harbert, relatively new committee member.
Hi, Daniel Kamat. I've been on this committee for 2 years now.
Tom Franklin, community volunteer. Been on the committee for, how long has it been, Maureen? 5.5 years?
Yeah.
Since the beginning.
Eric Simpson, you're a school board representative in this committee.
My name's Cheryl Tweedy, board member, been on the board for about 4 years now, I think. So we have some old timers like Tom and I, and a bunch of newcomers to the committee. So welcome, everybody. All right. I don't see anyone here to make public testimony, so let's move on to the first agenda item then, bond update report.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening. I'll go through the report, but first off, one piece of news that you may have heard. We've made the announcement, but not formally to this group, but Sherry will be leaving us in January.
Oh.
And which, of course, is devastating to our program, right? We'll do well, but we will very much miss Sherry. She's done a great job since the inception of this bond and with the work on the team of facilities development. But she's got a great opportunity that she needs to go and take. So while I hate to see her go, we're very excited for her future. And I'm going to let you tell them what that is.
Sure. So my husband and I have been working with a nonprofit organization for about 18 years, serving vulnerable children around the world that have been affected by natural disasters. And we are an organization that comes in after everyone else has left. So when the first responders come and just pour money and time in, we kind of hang back and wait until those organizations move out, and then the community is still left to deal with what has happened. And so we've got orphanages. We have a school for girls that were being sold into prostitution in a dump. We've got some microloan programs in some locations. We've got a bakery that teaches women how to bake bread and then go do it in their own community. So a lot of different operations all around the world. And I've been able to typically travel, take my vacation and go on trips every year, pretty much we go. I lived in Albania for a year as a representative of this organization, and their CEO is retiring, and they would like for me to come and help with that transition. He's not retiring for another couple of years, so I'm basically going to try to assist them in creating processes that allow them to continue without him at the helm. So, I'll start there after January. Incredible opportunity. I'm so excited. But I will miss this team incredibly. They are my family. I've been with the district for 12 years now, almost, and with the bond for 4. And it's just been an incredible experience. So thank you all for just making it an incredible learning experience and just a lot of fun.
Congratulations. That sounds like an amazing opportunity. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Where will you be working?
The headquarters is in Vancouver, so I'll have quite a commute. I live up by Westview High School, so it'll be about an hour commute. But I've done it before. I went to school in San Diego and drove an hour every day. So, but then I'll be probably traveling, not extensively, since my work will be about processes at the headquarters. But I will travel to locations every once in a while. I'll be still in the community.
Super.
I'm at a block and a half from me, so when we have questions, I'll be on their doorstep there by Westview. All right. So we've advertised the position for Sherry's replacement. Our intent with, while Sherry's leaving at the end of January, she's going to use up most of her vacation time in the month of January. So we're going to look to onboard the new her replacement in December, so that we have some turnover time between the two members and some continuity for the program as well. So as long as we have some good candidates in there, we should be able to make that happen, and already have the approval for the overlap of the funds within the program. All right. With that, we'll turn to the program. So or to the update here. So I'm going to be talking from this report that you have in front of you, the MON program status report. And the first page 2 of the package is the executive summary that has the graph there as well. And I'm going to talk from this sheet, and then it covers all the changes in the report. There's deeper into it, so I'll brief from this, but then if you have questions as you glance through the other pages, we'll go deeper into the report as well. So just to go to the overall program perspective, Hazeldale opened on time, and here we are, right in the school. Went very well. As you see, I think one thing as we look at the school at this point, we know we opened the school, but the school's not done. We work in the 1-year cycle of trying to build these schools, which is a very tight schedule. We work to that, getting the occupancy from the county in this case, or the city, so that it's safe to bring kids in, with the understanding that there's still some sections on the exterior and a few places in the building where we're still working, and the contractor is engaged in here still to finish the project as well. But again, we try to do that, of course, in a very safe fashion to make sure that we're able to bring kids in here, and they have the full, while we still have work, they still have access to the full educational program that they need within the school as well. William Walker continues. We had the groundbreaking ceremony just a few weeks ago. Went very well, and the team out there with the golden shovels made some good progress on the footings for us. But with this project, and I think I briefed you before, we've had some unforeseens with the asbestos we found in the building during demolition. It was a little thicker than we thought we would run into as well. And we're about 4 weeks behind on the project. So we've been working with the contractor for a recovery schedule to get us back on track. We think we have that in line. We had an initial... I don't have the details on that for you just yet. They came in with their schedule. We did some refinement as well. We rejected it, and we sent it back to them for some refinement of their schedule as well, which is due back into us this next week, and then we'll be working with them to lock us into a new completion date, which our original completion date was in July as well. We're probably going to push out into early August with the schedule as well. And there may be some acceleration costs involved with that piece as well as we work to regain that schedule. But again, we'll have, as we get to the negotiations with them, we'll have the details for you on that most likely at our next meeting.
When is the school supposed to be open?
End of August.
It's squeezing you down, but it isn't.
Right. It's squeezing us. We had a very tight schedule from for this school. The kids leave. We go into demolition right away after the kids finish in June, and then we are basically on a 1-year, 14-month cycle to reopen the school that next skip one school year as well. So we're tracking. We started the demolition of this project back in July, and we're into the footings now. We've got that underway out on the site, and that target is to have it ready for the schools in next August as well. Let's see. Down to the moving to the budget perspective. So we've actually had an increase in our program reserve, and that's due to some investments, bond sale interest that's come in. Also, we received some Energy Trust of Oregon incentives back that actually added to our program reserve, right? And we'll have those small increments. Oregon Trust, the ETO, the Oregon Trust, Energy Trust of Oregon, basically, if you understand that, we do energy initiatives within the projects, and then we're able to claim those to the ETO with the state, and they reimburse us for that work we did to increase the energy efficiency of our projects. So we get small, as we do these projects and the smaller ones, if there's an incentive we can claim, we'll get that refund back from them and repay the program for some of those costs as well. Meanwhile, the contingency decreased about $31K, which was some of the outlays here we'll talk about. First off being the $300,000 for the contingency decrease at William Walker, which was related to the asbestos. And then we know that we have some additional asbestos we may be negotiating here with them as well, and also acceleration costs, which may drive our contingency down a little bit more. But while we've made that outlay, we still feel we're in a good place with our contingency for William Walker, that it's not putting us in a budget bind at this time as well. Raleigh Hills we're going to talk about a little bit later as well, so we'll just wait on that. We also had some additional costs at Ridgewood. Ridgewood is a school we went into, elementary school we went to this summer. We added air conditioning to the school, as well as replacing all the ventilation system in there, and also electrical upgrades to support that. As we got into it, we had some, again, unforeseen conditions with the piping in the building that drove us to do a change order with the contractor, and some acceleration because, again, that was a contract that the contractor started in July and finished in August before school started. So the work was crammed into about a 7-week, well, we had a little advance, about an 8-week period that the contractor repiped that school, added the electrical capacity, and air conditioned the building as well. Did a great job for us on that project and worked well, but again, we incurred some additional costs on that $275K to increase that. Beaverton High School gym ceiling. So for our new members, last year we had to close the gym at Beaverton twice due to cracking of the trusses over the building and concerns about the safety of the students. We actually propped one up on the first one, and then the second one that occurred towards the end of the school year, we ended up closing the gym about 2 weeks earlier than we intended. Because of the safety of our students with the truss cracking up there as well. We knew we had some issues in there, and we had a project to go in and replace the ceiling and do some of this work originally, but we accelerated a little bit, and we had to add more bracing to the trusses over the summer. So again, this summer we were in Beaverton High School, tore out the ceiling, didn't change out the trusses. We reinforced the trusses over the gymnasium, put a new ceiling in with new audio-visual systems in the ceiling, and also redid the gym floor as well during the summer period. And we actually came in below budget on this, so we've returned $72K from the project budget back into the program as well. And then schedule-wise, everything this summer went very well. And just kind of, I'll go down to the bottom one there. We one of the ads for security that we started just with the permission of the board this year, we did a $2 million insert into our security budget for interior door locks. And we started, our first project was Aloha High School. And so we've been through the school now. They have their push-button locks throughout the high school, with the exception of their portables where we're ordering some additional hardware. So we've already finished our first school on that project, which we started in July. I think we came to see the board, got the approval as well. So moving rapidly on that project. So with that, again, that's kind of an overview of the entire package there. And I'll pause for questions, or if you page through, if there's anything you'd like me to turn to and address in the package, very happy to do that.
You mentioned contingency a couple times, just for, because I'm there. What is typical percentage contingency?
10%.
10%?
10%.
So you don't do any kind of risk analysis to go through and make a project-by-project contingency value?
No, we've pretty much stuck at 10%.
10% is the standard baseline. I would say that we will adjust that. You'll see some projects here that are earlier on in the design will start out with a higher contingency. When we did kind of the Big Four conceptual estimates, they had higher contingencies. And projects with a lot more unknowns, remodels and the like, we will apply a larger contingency. But the standard, generally is 10%.
Now, given the last experienced the last 3 or 4 years. Is that adequate?
The 10%, we've done
It's covered us on most
we've
projects.
done very well with the 10% contingency hold as well. And I think the nice thing with this is on these projects is that if of course it's a problem if we overrun, but we're able to recover that contingency cost back into the overall bond program when we come under as well. And if you turn page 10 shows you has the contingency amounts on the side there that shows you where we're at on those projects just for this report.
The special stuff at William Walker, is there any? Can it really blow up more, or is it almost like it's just kind of contained now?
No, we're done.
Okay.
So we're complete with demolition. It's all down and gone, and
So no more expenses.
we're in the footings now at this point. And we've had, I think, one slight soil condition issue, but for the most part, the soil's been good, and we should be coming out of the ground soon.
We're pretty optimistic about the budget there because with it being the 4th build of the prototype, we feel like we've got most of the kinks worked out.
Absolutely.
Right. And then the same
The unknowns.
and the same contractor that built
Kirby Nagel.
this school.
Yeah.
That again, there should be no surprises for them with the construction. Although it's mirrored, right?
That's right.
Hopefully they'll build it. They can build backwards. Good. Any other questions on the report? All right. Cheryl, did you want to talk about? Want to go into Raleigh Hills now, or would you like to do the other agenda items?
Let's talk about Raleigh Hills.
Okay. All right. So I sent you out a package last night. Again, I apologize for the short notice on this, but this is one we've been working on a little while. Speaking with our cabinet at the district and with the superintendent, and it's one I wanted to bring to your attention. We have the addition project at Raleigh Hills that was part of this bond, about a $12 million project, and we are kind of bottom line. I will tell you is we're ready to execute that project. We've been in design, but as we look at the existing building, the condition of that, the additional work that will have to be at Raleigh Hills to extend its life for the future, I think it's a good time for us to just talk about that and move forward with this project with that full transparency of the implications for the future at Raleigh Hills. So I prepared this package, and I will walk it through you and show you a little bit about the school. So if you turn to the first page, we just completed our seismic assessment across the district, and I pulled this page from the seismic report we had. There's about $3 million worth of seismic work that needs to happen in the Raleigh Hills and the existing building, which is fairly high priority in there on our list of schools, but still work that we have a safe school at this point. But there's this additional $3 million to bring us into compliance as well. What I think is interesting about Raleigh Hills is this picture, and it shows you all the different iterations of growth at this school. So if you look at that section, we start with 1927, the first school building, the 53 edition, the 56 edition, the 67 edition, that unknown, which was somewhere between the 53 and the 27, the 90 edition, the 62 edition, the 2015 edition. We did this. So it's a very interesting conglomeration of buildings. And if you actually go and walk on the first floor of this building, there's 5 elevation changes as you go across this of ramps up and down. So a very, very interesting conglomeration of several buildings put together, built into the slope there as well. The next page is to talk about, this is what we'll be doing in this project and the bond to fulfill the promise we made to the voters. So the first part is basically this is a K through 8 school, so the 6th, 7th, 8th grade programs pretty much resides in portables on the site, and the intent of this project was to eliminate the portables and create the additions to support those students. So looking at this, the green bubble there, that is 3 rooms that we added in 2015 as part of this bond program. And then the part in red is the addition that we'll be doing in this project here as well. Also, what is new is the bus loop you see out front, and then the parking lot on this. This is all new pavement on the site. because one of the other goals is this is on Shoals Ferry Road. It's a two-lane road in this section of Shoals Ferry. It's very busy, and we're looking. Part of this project was to bring that traffic that queues on the street onto the property for pickup time for the buses as well. So that's a high-level overview. Going to the next page. This blows up that addition, and you can see what we're doing here is that uppermost bubble, that's we're extending the cafeteria out to give a little more cafeteria space there, give them more capacity. Down below that is the stage, where we're adding an acoustic door on the stage for sound control, and that allows them to use the stage as a classroom. And then as you go to the next room there, from the stage area, that's a band room that's added, and then 2 science classrooms with the associated workroom in between, and the bathroom that we're adding in this project. So that's what the work at Raleigh Hills entails for this project. The next page is our breakdown of the budget we've done working with the contractor that we have and with our estimation team here. So basically, the first column there, the bond commitment, gives you the price of $10 million to achieve what we said, what we promised to the voters, and then that compliance requirements that's the cost of doing the work in there for these upgrades to the sprinkler system, the fire alarms, just to tie in, not to necessarily bring up the entire building, but to tie in there. So we have about $12.89 million project at this point, which includes that classroom we've already done, the $640 on that first line item, and a budget of $13.2. So we have a plan to execute this within the budget that's available on the project. And then the next page, again, just this is what was promised to the voters there on that top part where it says the building addition and renovation. So just wanted to show you the material that went out to our voters when we told them what we were going to do at Raleigh Hills. And so our plan of construction fulfills that requirement as well. The next page here, it's what drove the bond requirement. Creation is time, and I've got some historians here that can probably fill in some of the blanks better than I can. But really the desire was to get that bus and vehicle separation, to bring the queuing of the vehicles on the property, and to eliminate the portables, and then to modernize the 6 through 8 program there with the science classrooms and the band and choir, which we're achieving through this project as well. What was not at this time really considered was it was a look at bringing those programs under the roof, and not so much at the existing condition of the building and the life of the school building beyond the life of this bond program as well. So if you turn to the next page, this is our rough cost estimates here based on our backlog of work in the building and considerations there for the upgrades that are required for this building. So we foresee, with this addition added on top here, to go back when we talk about the next bond or the future of Raleigh Hills, we're looking at about $18 to $25 million in our estimates to bring the rest of the building up to a modern standard, close to modern standard as well. And you've got a list there of the things we have to do. Like I said, the seismic upgrades, we just got that cost, about $3 million of this. ADA requirements, certainly the air conditioning on the other side of the building needs a lot of work. It's going to need a new roof in the near future. Repiping of the plumbing is old in that building, will have to be updated, and then freshening up the classrooms. And while I'm saying 18 to 25 million, with that, we're not solving the multi-layers of the building, all the ramps I talked about, the 5 layers across there. So we're in discussions. One of the placeholders we have on the current project is discussions with Washington County. We don't have a decision out of them yet. Initially, the thought was that we wouldn't have to do changes on Shoals Ferry, but we don't have a final decision on that, and we're in discussions with them about what work will be required in this project for Shoals Ferry. I think we're going to get off fairly easy with them. As we talk to them, that we're going to be able to live within the existing pavement at this time. However, for a future project, I don't think we'll have that same pass if we go in to do major work at the school again. Shoals Ferry at this point, again, it's 2 lanes at this point, one way either way, and it's very restricted. So you're right up to our property where this bus loop is going to go, and our building is near the street. On the other side, there's houses and apartments right up to the street on the other side of Shoals Ferry. And so it's one of those things and we know that Shoals Ferry will grow and they will have to change in the future. So the decision will be, do you come into the school property or do you condemn houses on the other side of the street? Right. So we know that will be an issue in future projects. We also didn't consider the gymnasium cafeteria at this point are not air conditioned. We didn't include this in this. And then also, Aaron pulled up the map. And Aaron, can you show where our neighbors are at there?
Right.
So
this is kind of the main parking lot for everybody. And we have some neighbors. There's 3 lots back here, actually, that do not currently have legal access to their property.
right. And so these houses have a easement that runs right along the edge of our property in this apartment complex. That easement is about 7 feet wide. So it's not wide enough truly for a vehicle lane, and it's actually a retaining wall that's in this place as well. So over time, we discovered is, we knew this, but there's no standing agreement at this time, or easement. These neighbors actually come through our parking lot, come down here, and have a driveway that takes them back to their houses. So they come through our parking lot to get back to their houses. With the restrictions of the current building that we're working with, our first thought was to give them some property over there, but our restrictions on where the buildings are at and our room is we really don't have room to fix this issue in the current plan for the building. So therefore, as we build this new parking lot, our neighbors will still be accessing their property through our parking lot, and that's an issue that again in the future we may have to address. But for now, we're building that. We're building a parking lot with the notion that they will come through our parking lot and down to their property. Also, the issues there for them, and this is current. They cannot get a fire truck will not fit down their road. Ambulance will not fit down the road. Police actually will not drive down their driveway. They stop in our parking lot, and then they proceed down on foot from that point as well. So we're making some in this project as we do this parking lot. We'll improve that a little bit. They will get closer, but the angle of their driveway down is still not great. So
These are single-family dwellings?
they are.
Gosh, how did they get permits to do that?
This school is in a strange area, which is partially the city of Beaverton and partially Washington County, and we're kind of in a little bit of a ripple effect.
The county line actually literally goes through the middle. One of those houses is city of Beaverton, one's in the county. Our property is
Right.
So what's the school district's policy? Could be nice, or, I mean, it's an interesting dilemma. Because there's some liability here.
Yeah, I'm surprised they could get lending and insurance and all that. Yeah.
We had this whole, so far, and I realize you weren't here, but we had the same exact discussion when we were looking at this project with all the rest of the projects, trying to decide whether Raleigh Hills was going to be a part of it. And there was considerable discussion about the easement, the 7-foot wide driveway that was there. And at the time, somebody said there was a solution. I don't know where that... There was never a discussion about this, what we had planned. This won't work with the driveway. And while they were sharing it, if memory serves me, they weren't coming in through the parking lot. They were coming in off of Shoals Ferry and going straight back, a straight shot. They didn't have to go through the parking lot.
Tom, it appears it's always been through the parking lot. There's no other road for them. It connects. It's a little dirt road that comes up from our parking lot, and that easement they have across there is actually there's no way you could develop that into a driveway. One, the width, and then it's just a slope, because I don't know at what point part of this is I think there's some overlap of where that apartment complex put their retaining wall on the edge of this property. It's within the apartment complex's property line, but then the hill that's built down from it and the slope is tied into that wall. So if we gave them a few feet, that was part of our discussion. If we gave them a few feet and said, here, you've got 10 feet instead of 7, go figure it out, that retaining wall would have to come out and be rebuilt in there to get them a driveway.
Who owns the 7-foot dirt road?
One of the neighbors. Oh, the dirt. We own the road. Their easement is offset from the road.
Okay. So they're currently not accessing their property via the easement. They're coming through our property.
So the easement is sometime, there must be a legal easement given up by the school to the property owners.
No. That's a matter, as we do this project, that's a matter we will resolve with them as we're working through what that easement will be. As right now, it's just the way it's been.
And we've been working very closely with those neighbors. They're good with the solution that we have designed. But as Carl said, it's a liability, but it's the way it's always been. And any other solution is just not viable within anybody's ability to do anything about it differently. And it's definitely not a showstopper. It's just one of the many things that are still an issue for this project.
So that's there, and that's a matter. So we have a resolution as we go to this, but for the future, right, it's as we renovate, it's something that's still not an ideal situation there. In a larger project on the site where we could address this, whether giving them access or working with them to buy them out, etc. And then just my last note here on the remodel is, even if we remodel it, we still have a 1927 age building that's been renovated versus new. Our estimates for if we were to scrap this plan and look at a new building on the site, we're estimating about $45 million for that. Our current prototype for 750, like for this building, is about $34 million building that we're in. However, this site, it's very restrictive. The property, this wouldn't fit on the property. We'd probably have to go to a 3-story. It's sloped, 3-story daylight basement, perhaps with an L shape. So it would be a unique design for a school that would go on the site as well. So we'll throw that out there. We've got this, and it's for discussion. We're prepared to move forward with this project. But again, there's significant cost in the future at Raleigh Hills if we decide to move forward with this plan. And so it's just for discussion and ideas. One thought. One is we can move forward. Another thought is potentially that we take the $12 million in this bond and we hold that as a seed. We keep it on reserve for Raleigh Hills and try to marry that up with funds in a future bond to build a new school at the site. That's one idea that's been thrown out there as well. But anyway, we're presenting this for your opinions and thoughts.
What's the timeline on these future needs? That imminent or within the next 4 or 5 years, or can it be put off longer?
Some of them, of course, are variable. The roof will come very soon. The seismic, we have a 2032 timeline to do that work. However, if we're going to keep this school, this Raleigh Hills we're working on the priority of projects. It would be a fairly high priority for the seismic work. So I think early in the next bond, we'd be talking at least 10 to 15 million of this needing to get done as well.
So if you do put off the 12 million, 13 million, added to the 25 million future needs, you've got a cost of 38 million. New school's only 45 million. Doesn't seem like it's that hard a decision. New school sounds a lot better.
Has there been any discussion with the Raleigh Hills people? I assume not, because
No. This is, again, we've been with the superintendent at this point for this discussion. We're bringing it to you. Before a decision was made, we would certainly need to engage the community out there. Becky, you just want to do it, right? We like Becky. We want to keep her, and Eric both on our board. So, there will be, as we go forward with this, there will, as we present this to the board, the next phase would be to go out and meet with the community and to understand this piece.
So I have a couple questions. One on the entitlements with the building itself. How much work have you done with the AHJs on the existing building? I mean, are you sure that the $3 million is covering it? You're sure you got the fire? I mean, or is that still a risk? We haven't clearly defined all the risk in the building structure itself with the AHJ.
So as far as the seismic, there was a study that was done by an engineer, right. So we have a fairly good estimate on that piece as well. The other work as well, some of this is our deferred maintenance list that we're making estimates on of what it would cost. So it's not...
Sorry, but if the city or county, since I'm not sure because you told me it was both, decide that there's more required there, I mean, there's still that risk because you haven't gone through the whole permitting process on the project or haven't done a first string evaluation.
Correct. We have... It is City of Beaverton as well, but we have walked the building with the building official and discussed this with them as well. But again, and as we know, this is 18 to 25 million today. Right. As we know, over time, requirements and compliance issues change, so there is more potential for added cost than that as the requirements are defined.
That's my line of questioning because right now you have a net between what you plan to remodel and budget versus the new construction. And I'm just want to make sure that net is either this big or that big, as we talked about the issue about replacement. And then the exposure of the roadway alignment and having what would be a widening of the street, and since it's governments usually like to treat other governments with friendships about taking the government land instead of private, wouldn't that compromise the whole ability for the school to function in its current design if you don't have that bus turnaround? I mean, in your opinion?
Yes, it will. If we have to go in, there will be effect. It will affect that pavement out front as well.
Right, and because you only have a certain distance, so there's a risk that you spend all this money and then there is this slam of those issues that you could potentially not get value of those issues. So.
Correct. And I'll also add the additions that we're doing to this building with the 12 million existing classrooms. They are incorporated into the existing building. They will, if we build new, they will be demolished with the building. Right. So if we continue with this work and then decide new construction for the future, that's 12 million is a sunk cost project.
And then while we're discussing here, what would be a game plan for a replacement if that project was built new? Would you have to, the site's tight, so would it be an abandonment of the whole site, relocating that school? Or is there a way that you've seen or visualized that you could build a second new school and keep the old?
We keep the old. We would have to
keep it in use. I mean,
right.
So not,
no, we are.
Our
Our vision is that we can reuse the existing site for the school. And again, it's a part of town where the real estate, there's not a lot of open real estate, so we don't have a lot of choice. But it would be a unique design to fit the property.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the existing school could remain in operation while you built the new?
No.
Timberland?
So you would have a cost.
Timberland!
So you have a cost. I'm just waiting to get all the costs. So you have to add that equation to the new school factor is that you have all this impact, whether it's cost or risk emotionally, that buying a new, you would have to put people for, students for a year and a half someplace else, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I think that needs to be clarified as you're trying to make these decisions.
That's a good point.
Paul, do you have forecasts for student enrollment growth over the next 20 years, and how does that line up with the improvements that you're proposing now?
Our forecasts don't quite go out that far, but however, this is a part of town that's already built up, and so we foresee the future of Raleigh Hills fairly flat in this area. Also, as we've added William Walker with additional capacity, we have some we have capacity in our schools there to pick this up, whether it's Bose, William Walker, some of those where there's the ability to shift some of the load with boundary changes around. Another great word,
JC.
Becky loves. But again, it's a mature part of town, and so we don't foresee a lot of growth within the boundary area in the future as well. Fairly low.
This summary, it says classroom addition is complete. What is that?
I'm referring to
Three bubble.
this page, the
Green bubble.
green clouded area. Those are the 2 classrooms that were added.
Oh, so that's not like work complete or anything.
That work is
No, it is
that
done.
work is
That was done in 2015.
So that's like a sunk cost. It's not going to be.
Yeah, that part is the sunk cost.
That
Right?
would be a assumption.
Yes.
What would the student capacity be if you complete this addition?
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change.
What the number
Is
is?
that,
Oh, what was it? We did that.
500.
A new school is 750. William, it's less than, it's substantially less. It was like 625, I think.
Yeah, it's in the 600 number on that.
I mean, it's a K through 8 right now,
Right.
which doesn't necessarily mean it has to stay a K through 8.
okay.
It could
We
just-
have three. So we have.
It could
we
move
have,
to a K through 5.
We have 3 K through 8 schools in the district. The rest are all elementary, middle school break, with the 6, 7, 8 being at different schools.
But this school represents a fair portion of your capacity to hold students because it's K through 8, right?
Yeah, actually, the 6, 7, 8 at the school is fairly
They're
small.
very small.
It's what 120.
It's at capacity right now.
That capacity about 120 kids in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade. So it's fairly small, and we actually have middle schools that are below capacity at this point in the region that could absorb that if there was a change decided as well. And with our new, we've built a new middle school, the Timberland Middle School in the north part of the district. That is not a middle school yet. We've been using that as a swing school in this program. So it is actually William Walker at this point and Rachel Carson. So in about 2021, we will actually turn that into, when this program gets done with our major renovations, we'll be done with that as a swing school, and we'll be working on the boundaries and opening that as a middle school, which is going to add great capacity in that 6, 7, 8 category.
I guess I'm kind of on this side here where I'm just kind of, well, why don't you just
New.
a new school? I mean, it just seems so kind of obvious. But I'm not with it as far as the whole timeline thing with the bond and the next bond and what you can do with funds from this bond.
So if you were to build a new school, would you do the same logistics and turn, is it Timberlake into
Well, so
Raleigh Hills?
Timberland will be a middle school. I think as we get into the, we're just starting now for that next bond discussions of what we're going to do in the next bond program. And so with that, question will be is do we have a place where we'll build a new school that we can repurpose as a swing school for a period of time? That's why it's kind of an undefined cost. We know we're going to have to move kids at some point, and if we can try to, as we work it and we decide where we're going to build a new school, if we can try and build that side by side with an existing school, or where we do have some places in the district to support that, then that can become our new swing school to support, like the students from the school as we rebuild. But that's all undefined at this point. And so it is. We will.
Sounds to me like you've got options, or at least you think you can explore options.
I think we have some options, yes, to explore. Yeah. And so, numbers-wise, I agree. It makes sense. The sensitivity here and why we want to have this discussion is we came up with a plan. There's people that made this decision to go with this, and it was given to the voters that this is what we're doing at Raleigh Hills, and so it's numerically it makes great sense, I think, to go with the new school, but we just want to make sure that it does make sense to the community and to those that voted on this bond.
And that's the tough part for the for the board. I mean, the only two people on the board that know about this right now are Eric and myself. And it's new. Eric found out about it yesterday. I found out about it last Thursday. There's numbers and data, and then there's all of the personal, you know, we haven't checked with our community yet. We haven't said to these folks that, you know, you could be relocated and we're not sure where, and we'd have to move this on to the next bond, and that's not a guarantee that the voter is going to say yes, you know. There's you know, we're not dealing with absolute here, but the numbers, when you see putting this in, but it's, you know, the first thing I asked the staff when they told me is, you know, what domino goes first? And guess what, folks? You're the first domino. I mean, we need to start somewhere and find out whether this even makes it all sense, so we can go. So the devil's going to be in the details here, and how we, you know, Maureen's job is going to be cut out for her, because it's going to be a major PR and communications, and, you know, we're going to have some logistics. So there's a lot of pieces to, and like I said, the board doesn't even, you know, it's not something that we're even aware of yet, but it has to start from somewhere, and that's why we're looking to you, fine folks that are serving on this committee, to just give us some guidance.
So instead of spending the 12 million as listed here, can you do it so that the 12 million goes to being a part of the new school?
Keep the reserve.
So you say this is not, I mean, you don't need to, so you're spending the money. So you're telling the people that we are not really pushing it out. But that 12 million goes to a part of a new school that will be built out. So this list won't exist. Correct. But that 12 million should go to actually starting some part of the new school.
So within the existing, the site is very constrained, and so we had that discussion of, you know, could we build this in a way that it could remain as well? And there's really no easy solution within this budget on the site to build like a separate pod that could be kept as well. It's very restricted on the site, where we'd have to, and if we could do that, we'd have to go into some serious level design for an entire school on the site. But we've had that discussion, and we just cannot foresee a way to build this as a separate piece that could be saved into new construction on the site. It's very constrained in the way, you know, you see how the building has been pushed around there as well. It's a difficult site to work with the adding on or working with the existing building.
And, you know, as Cheryl alluded to, what does the future look like there with regard to enrollment and with regard to the populations? And those are the things that our team doesn't do. But as we were working through this and just recognizing what we could be spending, we just felt that, like you do, it just seems that a new school would be better there. But that doesn't mean that how the population grows is going to support that decision 6 years from now. So we look to others to make those kinds of decisions, but we run the risk of maybe we don't actually even need a new school there, and then we've made a promise to the community, but then that's not really the best for the community 6-10 years from now when the next bond is passed. And that's why we're bringing this forward, because from our construction project management minds, it doesn't make sense to spend the money now. But it may very well be the best thing for our community to go ahead with this project. And we are fully committed to do that. We can do that. We have the money. We have the ability. But it's truly a sunk cost, as the numbers show you.
Yeah, we've had, the last meeting we had a discussion about the programs and identifying projects for, should that program come to reality. Where would this project fall on that matrix?
That's a good question, and it's a community decision on the priorities of where those funds will go. One, I'm not. If we talked about this entire building, I'm not convinced that we will have that amount of program reserve left. One of the things we briefed the estimate of completion for the, again, we call it the $98 million project, but we've briefed that it's about 120 to get it done as well, which has not been completely funded at this point. We're going to add those funds later in the program potentially with that decision. So I don't know that we will have that big of a goose egg to support a project this large for one thing, but it would be a community decision on the prioritization. One nice thing about our bond fund, so it's an 8-year bond. The projects do not have to be executed in those 8 years. So holding the $12 million can go. Those monies from this bond can be held to tie in with that future bond, or to be executed at a later date. We could come back and execute $12 million at Raleigh Hills in this existing project. Although time value of money, we wouldn't be able to get as much program at a future date.
Paul, can you recap what are the most critical things that need to be renovated with this building that you really wouldn't want to postpone for safety reasons or other reasons? And do you have an estimate of what that cost would be? So something less than the full $12 million project.
I don't have those with us. I'm not, Aaron, if you brought the...
You mean out of the project we're currently planning on executing, what would be the elements of it? That
on the current one?
Yeah.
12
Okay.
12 million.
Okay. So...
The site work, I would say, the parking lot.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. We talk about the buildings we're doing there. That addition is just to get out of portables. So, and those portables we have kids in portables all over the district, right? So that might be critical. The parking lot piece there, which is the 2.6.
Yeah.
Team, feel free to jump in. We probably
even that is not necessarily critical. It's not it's not currently a safety hazard. I mean that would rise to the top of these, but I don't think.
My opinion is that all of this is just about the bond commitment. That's really what it comes down to.
And that community's been expecting.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been told about.
You've been promised.
Yes. Yeah, they've seen designs.
This is gnarly.
Yeah.
It seems to me if the board is looking for a recommendation or some input from our committee, that we need to have a lot more information, better definition of what options do we have, financial comparison of those options, the enrollment numbers that you talked about, schedule, including the swim school aspect and construction schedule, funds availability, which is the point that you're bringing up. Those things jump into my head that maybe you all that have more time here know these things, but I'd have a tough time making any kind of recommendation without seeing that kind of stuff written down and then having a discussion what we do and then come up with some kind of a recommendation. What's your timeline on needing some input or making a decision?
So originally this project is scheduled to commence next summer. However, we have some float in the schedule with the portables we believe can remain on site for construction. So we're looking to execute this in the next 1 to 2 years as well.
Okay, so it seems like we do have some time to do a real, maybe not in-depth, but to do a real analysis to be able to justify a recommendation, which I think you'd need if you're looking for more money
I think
some sort of a bond.
Sure. I think some of the really future considerations, though, about a swing school and those other things can't be determined now because they would so depend on where our populations are. Because we would be building in 2023, 2022, 2023. And I don't know what level of confidence. I mean, of course, that's what this business is all about. You put a recommendation based on, you apply some type of confidence factor to it, right?
There's so much what if kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, just the enrollment forecast alone.
Right.
Gosh, I
Right.
drive out by that new high school and look at all the building just in the last 12 months. It's just,
Right.
I'm sure that's got people's heads spinning.
Sure. And then,
It's a little more stable in the area that we're talking about with Raleigh Hills. There's not going to be any huge developments. In fact, if anything, I would think the population might be going down.
and then as we discussed before, the programming about the 6th, 7th, 8th, that's another consideration about which this team has no input. And so it's a challenge to put, we're used to putting numbers and applying escalation and risk factors and all those things, but there are another area of data that is very difficult to quantify.
I just remember a lot of the discussion that was held with the Raleigh Hills community, and things that we can sit here and, let me back up half a step. It makes all the sense in the world to build a new school when you put the numbers to it. Not a question in my mind about that, but is there going to be a bond? Is it going to pass? What else is it going to include? How do you approach these people? I can remember walking, and Maureen, we took these tours. The superintendent was just ecstatic. Oh, we're going to get out of these portables. We're going to get the band room back inside a building. There's as much emotion involved in these things as there is dollars. And you've got a population in Raleigh Hills that, no, they're probably not going to be generating a lot more population, a lot more student population, because it's too established. But you have a population that is very strong-minded, very old Portland, very easily angered. And I had some conversation about a year and a half ago with a handful of Raleigh Hills parents who they were just chomping at the bit that they were angry that this wasn't, that their business wasn't being taken care of sooner, even though they had been in on the other meetings. Like I say, from a number standpoint, it makes all the sense in the world. But Becky, Eric, Marie, Carl, a lot of people sit in on these meetings and hear the emotion involved. And when you're talking about, having a gathering here, let's say this is in Raleigh Hills or somewhere close, we're not going to be able to do your additions that we told you we were going to do this bond cycle, but we're going to save the money. I don't think saving the money to use on another project is going to mean a thing to them. What's in their mind is, when can my children go to this school where they don't have portables, where they don't have, you told us it was going to be here. And the hurdle of getting past that and getting another bond passed, I would be a little afraid of what it's going to do to the ability to pass another bond. These are voters, the parents. Would they understand the mechanics of the math with it? Like I think most of us in here do, and Ray put it very succinctly. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, build a new school, but that doesn't come into the mind of parents a lot of times.
Well, we're already, when we passed this last bond, and, I live in the area of Southridge where that bond didn't really include a lot to do with Southridge, because Southridge was the newest school.
Right.
Instead, what we were asking us to sell is we were telling the Southridge community, we need you to vote for this bond because we're going to take the Southridge community and split you in half and build this new school just down the road a piece. And you had to come up with a way of we're a whole district. We're not just a district, we're a whole district, and we have overcrowding in one part of our district, and this is where we have to, it's all about in your messaging, and you have to take your message to the voter of why this makes sense. I can see a real difference in speaking to parents of Raleigh Hills that have third graders or fourth graders or fifth graders who are staying there for eighth grade. This is what they saw coming now, and it's going to help their students now. But if you have the people in the Raleigh Hills community that have preschoolers or kindergarten, first grade, and you're able, that delayed gratification of, okay, you can get this right now. We're going to take away these portables that we told you, and we're going to get, but just a couple of years down the road with your help, and we're going to get a whole new school here, not just adding on to, I mean, it's about message, and it is where you are with your family at that time, and and this is a much bigger picture as far as our district, because what we're not even talking about is you've got a lot of older school. You've got Raleigh Park that has not had a lot of work done to it in a long time, but has a very, very vocal, and they love that school. Those people that go to that small school, they love that school, but it is not in good shape at all. You have Montclair. I mean, both of these ones that butt right up against Portland, you don't have a lot of new folks coming in. So are we talking about consolidation? Are we talking? I mean, there's a whole bunch of ifs out there that we as a community need to think about just the future and not always be making the best decisions for what's good 2 years down the road or 5. I mean, and this is what Eric and I sometimes think, what in the world was that board and staff thinking, when they didn't put bathrooms at Westview or bathrooms at South, what were they thinking? Because it costs us so much more. So I really appreciate that we stop and really try to think what is the best, because dollars are hard to come by, and what is the best use of the dollar to get the most that we can, and not just for the board that Eric and I are on now or this bond, but 10 years from now, 20, what is the best that we can do? And it is that nobody has a crystal ball, and it's really good. It's really easy to do the Monday morning quarterback, but it's going to be about messaging, and it's going to be about. But yeah, there's no doubt we're going to get some people that, but also the people that thought they were going to Timberland, we pushed that out a year longer than what we thought, because that's what was best for our district. And you had disappointed people. It's what was best. And those people that voted for that bond and their kids aren't going to Timberland as soon as they thought, they'll
still vote for us.
We hope they still vote for us.
Consolidation, and it seems to me that would be an option. Would be taking Raleigh Park and Raleigh Hills School and combining them and using the Raleigh Park layout. I mean, they would have a lot more land there. You might be able to put a facility like this if it would house both student populations.
Interesting.
But I just don't like those rumors, because you just got people that just start vibrating before
Public
One of the decisions that you have to make is the operational cost of continuing to sustain a building that probably is not as insulated, is not as energy efficient, and harder to manage staffing-wise. And I assume that the current building probably meets most of those criteria, right? And so then you're putting up a new facility that theoretically will be less cost over the long term, which is your biggest cost is your operational cost of a new building versus an old building. So that's part of the factoring you have to consider. When in the sales approach, the one thing you might have you done a rendering or a conceptual concept for that site to do one? And I mean, if you are going to go down that path, you might have to, do some pretty glossies to show what it could look like out there. I mean, that would be the takeaway I would have if we're going to go down the second swim lane of replacement. You better get some good renderings really quick.
Is there anything?
We have not gone down that road yet.
Is there anything that can be done to the site to make it more amenable to construction that can be extended?
It's too small.
Right now, the thing is we cannot use this 12 million to build something that can be kept. And so is there anything that can be done to the site to make it possible?
Probably not. The trick is the footprint of the actual building is so long on the front of the property. And the biggest problem we will have in Rio is reconfiguring the traffic circulation in and out of the site, and there's no way to do that right now because all you have is the one spot on the end. The building takes up the whole front.
And the unknown of the expansion of that road, as we talked about, the Shoals Ferry, because more than likely they would come our direction for the easements to widen that road.
Yeah.
And so if we did spend money, maybe even just went forward with all the site work that's proposed here, I think we would lose many feet of it when we went for an actual renovate, tear down and rebuild. Plus the grades will really need to be, that would be one of the first things we'd do is probably fix the grades, because I don't know if you've been there, but it's a kind of fun hill to come down off of Shoals down into that parking lot, and that would be one thing that we would no doubt fix in a renovation.
What is the timeline that you're working on at this point in time? When would you need a more definitive response from this committee? I think the conversation tonight has been really good, and we've raised a lot of questions. We've suggested there's a lot of pieces of information that could help lead to a more informed recommendation from this body. So what is kind of the drop dead date for needing a decision and a recommendation?
So we had intended this project to start this summer upcoming. So we're in the design process.
Yeah.
We're deep into that. So if we continue on that schedule, we would need a fairly quick answer from the board to continue or to delay. But we have with the site that we have, again, we have the room at Timberland for a couple more years, and so this could delay beyond this summer for the start or for that piece as well. So if there's a desire for more time, which this is going to take some work as well, we can delay that start out of the summer into the midst, probably in the midst of next school year.
The thing to keep in mind is we're looking at 6% escalation right now. So you can, right off the top, take away 6% of what we'll be able to build, more than likely. Unless the market changes.
Well, on the other hand, if the construction market cools off, we can get a lot more for the dollar.
Right, but we have billions of dollars worth of school construction that's just now starting.
Mm-hmm. All over the region.
All over. And we're seeing nothing but escalation of just lack of workers and lack of bids. And I mean, that'd be great, Dick. I would hope that's the way it would go, but yeah, it's just a consideration that if we delay, there will be that to consider, that our money will be worth less in the future.
Do I hear any proposals for recommendation or suggestion from this body to the school board? You've been rather quiet.
Sounds like, we have meetings. When's our next? We have 2 more months for our next meeting.
Yeah.
Did you want to do a little bit of some of the homework stuff? There's little extra things that were brought up. Could we do a little bit of offline work together?
Of course.
You're going to have some demographics.
Yeah.
Quick, because you mentioned talking to somebody with kids that are just in preschool now. From my recent experience in the real estate world, I don't think you're going to have a lot of those people. There's no demographics that I've seen in the last 5 years that's showing in the Raleigh Hills area that you have young families moving in anywhere.
Well, and just because you have a young family doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to your local Beaverton school. You have lots and lots of choices.
No,
I'm
just talking about.
But that's why we do our best we can to, guess at any school what we think is coming in.
We have some demographic data, like what the attendance is right now. So we're not devoid of data. I don't think everybody else.
We do, yeah. We have the demographic.
Yeah, we see at the board meetings. Of every school. So.
All right, so I'll help you out. So I think that the team should put together a presentation defining the pros and cons, the risks, the costs, and maybe then the demographics / input from the district related to what that location should be like for the next meeting. That area, that region, because we've pulled in 3 schools and just talking about one.
Thank you, Carl. Others? Other thoughts? Other thoughts on Carl's proposal?
I don't know. As a board member, I think sometimes it's all right to take the heat. I mean, if it's a smarter decision, a business decision, it's hard, but I think we can still align the community and get back behind the bond. But, I'm still new at this. But it'd be kind of silly to do about sunk costs and a lot of deferred maintenance that really, if you get a new building, it'll save, you can map it out and it'll be a lot smarter decision.
Yes.
And operational costs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, if we can show some of that, it looks like it makes sense, but now we have the motion part. That's what you're good at, Becky. You're figuring out the motions and getting things passed.
Okay, so we'll take the next 2 months. Paul, does that work for you and your team? We know how crazy busy you are already, but I think this can lead to much better recommendation from this group and much better information for the board to be considering as you deliberate and you go back out to the community. And I think we all take our responsibility here pretty seriously, our fiduciary responsibility to the board, and that really this is a 75-year, 100-year decision that we're talking about for the school district.
The other counterintuitive thing to do if we have enough money left over in the reserve would be actually to pull in the building of the new school. Because then you can put this 12 million and whatever, take the extra from the reserve. It will be risky because then you'll be left with very little in this current bond program. But
be a hero.
So I'm wondering this. The next meeting isn't till November 28th.
Middle one.
I believe if the decision is deferred, and I asked my staff to think with me on this, if the decision is deferred until after November 28th, I think we've made the decision to defer it another year. So that would be a question I think we need to ask ourselves. And I heard someone say something about putting together data and maybe getting it out to people before another meeting.
Like an interim, some kind of.
But
would members of the committee be willing to meet in October?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. Yep, I would too.
All right. We'll quickly pull that information together. This is not too hard. I think some of it's in the package. We'll repackage it some and look at the operational costs and present the demographics as well and give you more information. And we'll try to do that very quickly and try to meet for a mid-October date as well.
Great. Thank you. This is one of the meatiest conversations we've had in a long time at the back.
Right. And I appreciate the fiduciary. It's one of these pieces. As we looked at this project, we were ready to execute this. We're marching on the road, and as we just considered the other cost, it led us to the conclusion that we needed to have a deeper conversation about the future of Raleigh Hills. So,
And I thank you for bringing it to us. I think you did the right thing. That is your job as well.
Mid-October, I don't think anybody would object if I wasn't here, but mid-October I won't be able to make a meeting, so I'm off to another surgery.
Great.
Every year.
All right, the next item on our agenda is vice chair selection. And we had a short discussion about this last meeting, and there were no volunteers running to step up for the position. And we talked about nominating people who weren't in the room at the time. The American way. And that looks like that's probably not going to be. Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't miss meetings.
A good option for this next year. So I guess I'd like to ask if anyone else has had a chance to reconsider and would be willing to step into the vice chair.
No, I'm sorry.
Was that a yes?
I was a step ahead of you. I was going to say I was the one that brought up someone who wasn't here last
Yes.
meeting, and I thought he would make an excellent vice chair. So, are you looking for a Motion?
I think in some respects, if one of the board committee members wanted to volunteer, that
yeah.
would be a really good sign of enthusiasm and commitment. And if not, you take your chances.
Straws,
It's got quiet here.
Well, I guess the other thing we could do is we are meeting again in October. We could do
We are.
some behind-the-scenes conversations and see if we can convince someone to step into this role. The truth is, it's not a really hard gig. Participating in school board presentations and when the chair's absent to step in and run the meeting, but it's not a major commitment of additional time or energy. Okay, no one's buying it.
Nice song. Nice song.
I need some marketing help. All right. We have a tour to go on.
We do.
Excellent.
Who's the tour guide?
Should we leave our stuff here?
Aaron, tour guide.
Absolutely.
All right, take it away.
So this is the library. Why don't we start up front, actually? Can 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 we start up front, actually?